Ever wonder what it would be like to play a bounty hunter in the Old West? Well, long before Red Dead Revolver, there was this. A run gun game. No, I'm not talking about Gunsmoke. I'm talking a game from the guys who brought us Castlevania, Contra, and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles video games, good old Konami. And if you know this particular game, then I think you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking Sunset Riders, and I'm going to review this game right now. Yeah! This is Big D's Entertainment Rankings and Reviews, partner. Yeah! Howdy, partners. Welcome to Big D's Entertainment Rankings and Reviews. My name is Doyle, better known to as the Big D, back again with another video game review as I promised. This time around, I'm going to be tackling a classic, a run gun game that takes place in the Old West. And I've got to say, when I first saw this game, it looked pretty awesome. Even though considering it was a game that had winning kills like Contra. But hey, I tried it, and it was fine though. I mean, considering my late great brother was the one who was playing before I ever took a crack at it. And I gotta say, it has become one of the greats. So here it is. The game I'm going to be reviewing is Sunset Riders. Sunset Riders is a side-scrolling run-and-gun game that takes place in the Old West. The game was originally released in the arcades in 1991 and was produced and developed by Konami. Now, Sunset Riders is pretty awesome. It was actually used with the Konami TMNT2 based arcade systems field sang to or something like that. If I can figure this out. But anyway, yeah. Well, the arcade system it was. Anyway, it's set in the American Old West where the player takes control of a bounty hunter who is seeking the rewards offered for various criminals. The arcade game was released in July of 1991 in Japan and was sent to North America a couple of months later. It was released in two variants, a two-player version and a four-player version. There were also home console versions, which I'll get to in a little bit, as well as an emulated version of the arcade game. Again, I'll get to that in a little bit. But for now, let's get into what this game is. The game, which is set in a fanciful version of the American Old West, revolves around four bounty hunters. They are Steve, Billy, Bob, and Cormano. They are out to claim rewards offered for eliminating the most wanted outlaws in the West. At the beginning of each stage, the players are shown a wanted poster for the outlaw they will face at its end. Now the first four will be featured alone: Simon Greedwell, Hawkeye Hank Hatfield, Dark Horse, and the Smith brothers. Once you take all of those bays out, you will get a little something special, a big poster where you'll be offered you'll learn that a huge reward's being offered for Sir Richard Rose, but you have to face his three henchmen, El Greco, Chief Scalpin, and Paco Loco, before you reach Rose Manor and take on Sir Rose himself. The gameplay to this is similar to that of the Contra series, as well as the beat-em-up game Vendetta, also from Konami, which was released the same year. This cooperative shooter can also be played up to 2 or 4 players simultaneously, depending on the version of the game. In the 2-player version, each player can choose which of the 4 bounty hunters to play at the start. While in the 4-player version, each character is assigned to a different control panel. Steve and Billy wield revolvers, Bob carries a rifle, and Cormano uses a double-barrel shotgun. The The controls consist of an 8-way joystick for moving and aiming, and 2 buttons for jumping and shooting. The players can jump between higher and or lower floors and slide to avoid enemy attacks. The objective of the game is to defeat a gang of outlaws in 8 stages, with a fight against a strong boss character at the end of each stage. When 2 or more people are playing, the one who deals the most damage to a stage boss receives the entire bonus for defeating him. 5 of the stages are played on foot, 2 on horseback, and 1 on a moving train. A bonus minigame is played after the second and fifth stages, in which the player or players can earn additional points by shooting outlaws as they pop up. After all 8 stages are cleared, the game restarts with increased difficulty. Power-ups and bonus items can be obtained by entering doorways, defeating certain sack-carrying bandits, or opening sacks placed on the ground. 2 power-ups are available. A gold sheriff's badge that grants fully automatic fire, and a silver one that gives the player a second gun for double the firepower. Both power-ups can be equipped at once. Other weapons that can be used by the player include dynamite carried by female bandits, which must be thrown back before it explodes. Now, I actually am going to be talking about the arcade version before I go to home console ports, where it has changed, where there are changes in my opinion, but I'll get to that in a bit. Hanging rocks, barrels, torches that can be dropped on enemies, and mounted Gatling guns available only in the last stage. An Easter egg involves the defeat of the boss in the 5th stage. If Carmano is active at this point, he will catch the boss's sombrero and wear it for the remainder of the game. 1 life is lost whenever the player is hit by an enemy attack, trampled by bulls, caught in a fire explosion, or struck by a rock or obstacle. Any power-ups that the player has gained are also lost. After all lives are lost, the player may continue the game by inserting more credits, but has a limited amount of time to do so before the game defaults to game over. Now then, let's see here. Now, I actually like the main characters in this game. I like them all. I mean, when I played the actual arcade game, I played as Billy. When I got the home console port, which was the Super Nintendo version, I play as Carmano. But I play as all of them and beat the game and what have you. Although I beat it on easy, and I got a Game Genie so I could see if I can do it well with on the hard setting and play it into very hard setting. But again, I'll get to those in a little bit. Now, for the Outlaws, you'll get to hear numerous words and what have you. Your first boss will be Simon Greedwell, who wields his shotgun, and his last words on his death are "Bury me with my money." Then Hawkeye Hank Hatfield is the second one, who is known to shoot a gun in one hand, and believe me, he's very quick and what have you. I like how he starts out with his battle, "Draw, Pilgrim." And Dark Horse is the third boss, and he's muscular and rides an armored horse, which you have to shoot Dark Horse the rider himself, not his horse, because bullets will deflect off and what have you. He starts "You and he big trouble" and finishes off with "Me and he big trouble" and rides off. Now the Smith brothers are taking over a saloon, which is the 4th stage, which is done after you defeat Dark Horse, where you have to avoid their bombs and lanterns that are drawn at you. Once you're done, you can watch the can performance of 3 beautiful women on stage, who then inform the bounty hunters about Richard Rose and his henchmen. El Greco's the first one you go after. Now, originally he says "Die, gringo," which I hope that's not going to bother anybody much. But they changed it for for the SNES version, and where he says his ending words, "Adios, amigo." He has a whip and a shield. Chief Scalpum, easily probably one of the most toughest bosses and what have you. You have to be careful of his throwing knives and what have you, and he'll shield himself with his knives. Really tough and what have you. But before he's but he's spared before he's neutralized by his younger sister's plea, knowing that he's only following Rose's orders. Paco Loco is pretty hulky and wields a Gatling gun, a chihuahua, and once he's defeated, his last words kind of references the T-800's main catchphrase in Terminator 2, which was released the same year the arcade game comes out, like "Hasta la bye-bye" and "Pow." And then Sir Richard Rose comes out. Cheerio, old chap. He's an expert, and he's easily probably the most difficult boss of them all, maybe aside from Chief Scalp. He's really fast and what have you, with one revolver in hand and demonstrating his agility at a fast pace. So you gotta be careful. He reveals he has a metal plate after you defeat him, but so you'll have to get him again. Once you beat him, we see a graphic showing a single rose being destroyed. Unfortunately, it's not shown in the SNES version, but however, his final words are featured. "I say, bit of bad luck." And that's that. Anyway, so I will say I give credit to people who did the music for the game. I won't really say the names since they're all Japanese and what have you. But the people who did the music for this was really good. The graphics looked very good. The characters looked really good. Not much to say. After this, in December of the following year, it was released for the Sega Mega Drive, which of course that's in Europe, and aka the Genesis to us. However, you could only play as Billy or Kamano, and you only had to face Simon Greedwell, Chief Scalpum, and Paco Loco, and then Sir Richard Rose. I kind of got reversed. Paco Loco's who you face second, then Scalpum the third. And then in the summer of the next year, it was released on Super Nintendo, which I actually happen to have my copy of this. I got for just $4. Yes, you heard me correctly. I got this for $4 at a used game store. Yeah, back in 2010. I know this game probably goes for a little more, but if you can find for a reasonable price, then I'd say get it. Get either version. I mean, everybody really liked them, what have you. Now, let's see. Well, some people actually like the SNES version or the Genesis version, which remains a little more loyal, despite it kind of tones down the can dance and what have you. Well, the way the gals look for their dance and what, the way they're dressed, that's what I meant. And some other things and what have you. And the Gatling guns are removed and what have you. And they also had to change Scalpin's name to Chief Wigwam for obvious reasons. And you don't face any Indian baddies either, unfortunately. Which that was kind of a disappointment, but that was Nintendo's doing and what have you. However, some of those are still in the Genesis port, however. Now with the SNES port and Genesis port, there's a difficulty setting. You can hear the music from the game, and just about lots of other things and what have you. Let me give you a better look at the copy of the actual game for Super Nintendo. There it is. There we go. Sunset Riders and the Konami logo. And in retrospective, it got some pretty decent good reviews. Game rankings ranked the SNES version at 80% and the Genesis version at 70%. Nintendo Life gave this 8 stars out of 10, writing it was bright, colorful, fantastically well animated, with superb music and sound. It understands its place as a Western game and within the run and gun genre by combining imaginative characterization and humor with well paced action set pieces, plus variety in its gameplay. Retro Game Age gave it the same score as well, opinion that the game remains a fun romp that still presents some challenge to get through and is just as fun to play now as it was almost 20 years ago. So anyway, and actually IGN ranked it as the 88th best game for the Super Nintendo. And Complex listed this as the 36th game and the best Super Nintendo games of all time. Very impressive. So anyway, Sunset Riders is really awesome. I do love it. Now, for years, it has never been released at me and what have you. Oh yeah, one other thing: the Dynamite Toss and Female Bandits were removed from the SNES version as well. Barflies that kisses the player in stage 1, as well as the saloon dancers in stage 4, are dressed more conservatively and what have you. Hunter dogs, which were present in the first segment of the first final chapter, the Genesis version wasn't featured, and of course, I mentioned Native American arch enemies from Stage 6 were replaced with regular outlaws. Oh yeah, and we don't get to really hear a gunshot in the opening for this, and for the game and what have you, which is still close to being loyal to the opening for the actual arcade game. Some in the Genesis didn't have, even though considering Billy and Carmine were the only two characters. Now, the controls in the Genesis version aren't identical, but however, I will tell you that each boss dialogue is worded in a text voice bubble instead of voiced. Power up icons have also been replaced as well. Unlike the other versions, the player can cause a stick of dynamite stick to explode by shooting it. To access the bonus stages, the player must collect a star-shaped item located in either stage of the chapter of each chapter, and bonus stages also differ from the ones in the arcade and SNES ports. The player chases after a moving wagon on horseback, while the woman in the wagon tosses bonus coins and extra lives at the player's path. In addition to the standard game mode, the Genesis version also features a two-player versus mode where the player must shoot each other until one of the players run out of health. I've never actually gotten to see that in action though, but still looks pretty interesting though. Here's a look at a screenshot from the arcade game itself. You can see which ones are the heroes. From left to right, Bob, there's Steve, Kamal, and you see Billy. If I went the wrong direction, I apologize. Hang on. No way, I think I did get it wrong. Yeah, I went right to left. My bad. Left to right is Billy, then Kamal, then Steve, then Bob. Apologies, folks. Boy, I hate when that happens. I know I'm showing the pics from my tablet and what have you, but even so, I still think it's still pretty good. Now, anyway, that's what it will also look like on the Super Nintendo version of the game and what have you. So, now then, hang on a second. Now, here's a look at a screenshot from the Genesis port of the game, so you can see it looks much different. Also, here's some other things I want to point out. On each difficulty setting, each bullet shot at you is much more quicker and what have you, depending on what setting you're playing it on. And also, just like the arcade game and all ports, bosses will start flashing red when they're almost defeated, just like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade games did, as well as some other Konami games that came out after this, like X-Men and The Simpsons. But anyway, Sunset Riders is so awesome. But there was one more thing I was going to point out. In 2020, for many years, I bet people wanted to play this. In 2020, an emulated version of the actual arcade game was actually released on PlayStation 4 and the Nintendo Switch under their through the arcade classics, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the company's arcade archive series, released by Hamster Corporation. So that might be a good way to play it as well, just in case you can't afford a card of the SNES or the Genesis port, even though the Genesis version is a little more watered down. But anyway, Sunset Riders is awesome, and I would highly recommend you play this. Definitely. So, anyway, again, it's a great game with great characters, great animation, great action, great boss battles. Oh, the list goes on, and a great soundtrack as well. Definitely. So, anyway, what did you think of this game? Have you ever played Sunset Riders? If you have, let me know which version you played. Did you ever play the arcade, play in arcades, or did you ever play on Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis? Please feel free to let me know in the comment section below. If you like the video, click the like button, subscribe, and be a part of the Big D Nation. Join me next time when I bring to you another video game review, and it'll be on Capcom's beat 'em up classic Final Fight. So I do hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, you may want to consider checking out my reviews for some of these other video games. In the upper left-hand corner is my review of Super Mario World. The upper right-hand corner is my review of Disney's DuckTales. Or if you would like, go to the bottom left-hand corner and see my review for the recent big video game movie itself, the Super Mario Bros. Movie. And the bottom right hand corner is the button you can click to subscribe. If you like rankings and reviews on movies, TV, music, video games, etc., then I'm your guy. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'm the Big D saying, see ya, partners. Bye.